All right, Juan, the
Don't
time
talk to
has
me.
come. We saw some points this weekend, and I think two of those points were from none other than La TV, which for anyone, we can, if you cut back to a couple episodes, Juan made the dedication to Williams that if Latifi got points, he would get Latifi specific merch. Not even just Williams, Latifi, our boy who's coming out in a few more races. He's got 4 races left in the F1 game. Congrats.
I will start to look at their merch catalog after this, and I will curse myself for the rest of eternity.
Welcome back to Break Check. It is Monday, October 10th. We are recording finally from the race yesterday. It was a very early race for myself and a very late race for Juan. So I'm assuming you had watched some of the recap, but how was the rest of your weekend?
Weekend was good. Yeah, I'm gonna keep it a buck with you all. I did not watch that race. I was up for it. It started at midnight my time, which I generally am a pretty early going to bed person. So I was up. The race started. We got a lap in. Half the grid crashed, and then it got delayed. And I was like, you know what? I'll stay up. I'll wait for the delay to finish. And then the delay got pushed back, and that's when I texted Megan. I was like, I'm calling it, and I went to bed promptly. Rest of my weekend was good. I pretty much got my desk set up. I have no more mic in my hands, so I am not bound to the cable anymore. Yeah, so weekend was good. Hung out with some friends. Celebrated my dad's birthday. I'm still getting used to looking at Megan on an actual computer monitor. I keep like glancing at my laptop and she's not there. So, but yeah, no, weekend was good. How was yours?
It was good. For the race, it was 6 a.m. here. So I woke up nice, bright and early after a very long couple of days, which I'll talk about. But yeah, I woke up at 6 a.m. I was like, I'm gonna need coffee to get into this race so I can actually pay attention. Again, after I had made the coffee, the lap was delayed. And so I was like, okay, well, that's fine. It'll be like 5, 10 minutes. 2 hours later, it finally started again, by which point I had been awake for a bit. So there's no way of me going back to bed. But otherwise, the weekend was great. The Packers were here for the NFL game. There's a couple of games every year with the NFL, and the Packers, it was their year. So it worked out perfectly because I had just gotten here, and they're my team, of course. So my roommate and I were desperately trying to get tickets up until the last minute, essentially. And it didn't work, but we were able to go to a pub right by the stadium and watch it there. And I met a ton of people who are from Wisconsin or from the US, and everyone was so friendly. It felt like a hometown bar. So it was, yeah, a very good weekend, very fun.
And Packers took a fat L.
Okay, yeah, we don't have to talk about it.
Oh,
Listen,
The Bears
it
lost
was
too. Don't worry.
and it was my roommate's team too. She's a Giants fan, so
Oh,
uh
yeah,
she was thrilled. I was quiet after the game for a bit, but
yeah, that's fair.
all fun.
Yeah, so like you said, weird race. We don't have as much race stuff to talk about today. One, because I didn't watch it. I watched the highlights, but I just did not watch the race. I apologize. Uh,
Yeah.
I draw the line at 1 a.m.
I have like 7 bullet points for news, so we can try and speed through it. But firstly, I want to say that there was the official announcement of Pierre moving to Alpine and Nick moving to AlphaTauri. I didn't realize that I knew Pierre and Ocon had known each other for a long time. I didn't realize they grew up 20 minutes away from each other, both in Normandy. That's
Mm-hmm.
crazy. Like the coincidences of that. It's insane. And I guess Antoine would have likely driven for Alpine had he still been
Yeah.
alive and made it into F1. So it's all just like a very sentimental thing for Pierre, which I'm very happy for him. And of course, like Juan and I have been saying all season since we've been talking about these getting to know about why Nick isn't in F1 yet. So I'm so excited to see him finally in it. I'm a Nick DeVries stan, so I'm so excited to see him in it next year. Makes me feel a little bit better about some of the other drivers who are leaving this year.
Yeah.
Do you have any thoughts on the move? I know we've talked about it kind of a bit, so
I think it makes sense. I think Alpine is going to be dangerous next year. As long
mm-hmm.
as Pierre has been in a slow car, as long as Pierre is the driver we think he is, I think Alpine is a firm third place in the constructors next year. No, not third place, fourth place in the
Yeah.
constructors next year. I think they are a firm fourth. And depending how the development of Ferrari and Mercedes goes next year, they could fight for third. Who's to say?
Yeah, right. Anything can happen as these cars
Mhm.
get closer. So, yeah, I'm very excited for it. Hopefully they get along. I think we're going to see a little bit of drama finally between teammates, which we haven't really seen this year. Just knowing that they don't necessarily get along, and Ocon is not everyone's favorite driver to work with, based on his history. So, which also we go over in the Get to Know Alpine series. So feel free to listen to that if you want to learn more about Ocon or the team. But yeah, and then in terms of other driver moves, Mick is currently in talks with Haas and Williams for a seat there. I'm assuming Williams will sign on Sargent, the American 21-year-old driver in F2 right now. He's currently third in the standings, and as long as he finished fifth, he'll probably have an F1 seat. And then I'm guessing Mick will stay with Haas for another year, and then eventually. I know there's rumors that he would move to Audi in 2024, which I actually would love to see, and I think is possible. Do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think if Mick is gonna be in F1 next year, I think it'll be with Haas.
Mhm.
I would rather them keep him than sign Hulkenberg. I just we've said it before. We
Yeah.
don't see it. We don't get it. Uh, I think Alex Albon is going to obliterate Logan Sargent next year.
Yep.
It's not going to be close. And I
No.
think I think Logan Sargent might be a case of coming into F1 too early. I think he's going to flame
Mhm.
out. It sucks because we would like to see an American driver. I think that's the next step for the sport in America.
Mhm.
But I do not think Logan Sargent is the man for the job. I think more of a chance for a successful American driver to come in further down the line or with Colton Herta whenever he is ready. So
Yeah. I know it's unfortunate Colton doesn't have the super license points because I think he should
mhm.
have a seat by now. I'm hoping that this coming year he focuses on getting the remaining points he needs
Yeah,
so that he can have a chance because I think he's like 26, maybe 25. He's like in that mid 20s range. So, and then I think a lot of people are expecting Logan to be this like Lando Norris, George Russell, who has a lot of talent. They just need like a car to get into in
yeah.
F1, but I'm more concerned it's going to be like a Yuki Tsunoda situation where he doesn't have as much experience as some of those other drivers and is just thrown into this F1 seat and kind of just a lot of rookie mistakes. I expect a lot of spin outs, crashes, just silly errors. Kind of
Yeah.
like the things that Lance Stroll does in his fourth year in F1. So
And even just real quick going off that, Yuki is like a best case scenario for an inexperienced driver in F1.
mhm.
Like he obviously has made those rookie mistakes a lot, but Yuki has probably done about as good as someone with his experience can,
Yeah,
So I
right.
wouldn't even expect Logan to do as well as
To do
Yuki
that.
has.
That's right. I think people are really harsh on Yuki, and I'm excited to see hopefully next year a better AlphaTauri car so he can kind of show off more of that potential.
Yeah.
I'm curious, kind of transitioning into another bullet point about other team people moving, is that Daniel confirmed he wouldn't have a seat next year, but he seems fairly confident that he has a 2024 option, which makes me believe he's already in talks with another team to take over one of those seats. Do you have any thoughts or predictions on what seat that might be?
Um, I think it might not exist. I think unless there is a pending retirement that we don't know
Mm-hmm.
about with someone like Checo or Lewis, I
Yeah.
don't. I mean, he was confident that he had a 2023 seat, and to be fair,
Yeah.
he
Yeah.
probably can if he wants. He seems to have an open offer at Haas that he was not
Mm-hmm.
interested in.
Mm-hmm.
So I think he could probably race at Williams if he wants as well. But as far as a contending or an up and coming team, someone's got to retire. I don't know how easy it is to predict that ahead of
Yeah.
time because even Sev's
Yeah.
retirement just kind of came out of nowhere a little bit.
Yeah.
So I don't. I am never going to knock someone for having a plan, a dream, and sticking to it. But
Hmm.
if I were him, I don't think it would hurt to look at his other options in different series.
And I'm surprised he said that he isn't even considering anything outside of F1. He said he wants his focus to be F1, which is like part of me, it's, I feel like it's a little bit of in denial. Maybe I think over the next year he'll change his mind and look to do something else. But the only other seat I could see him possibly going into is Yuki's seat if Yuki doesn't renew after next year because he only has a 1 year extension. So I could see them taking Daniel back on in 2024, especially because he already has those ties with Red Bull. But
Yeah,
yeah, I really hope he takes another opportunity, like IndyCar, he would be great in, or just
NASCAR
something
even,
different. Yeah,
and yeah,
NASCAR. And I don't like NASCAR, but I will gladly watch it if Danny Rick is in it. So.
yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I just like if he didn't take the Haas or the Williams seat, I mean, why would he take the AlphaTauri seat next year? So
Hmm.
I
Yeah.
he's got to have some kind of long game. He must
Hmm.
have like maybe just like a handshake agreement, like, hey, if Lewis wins a championship next year, he's going to retire. If XX and YZ happens, Checo's going to retire. I don't know. Lewis seems to be poised to go for a while. Checo is
Yeah.
not that old, and he is racing well. He's probably the best
Hmm.
teammate Max has had. Uh,
Yeah.
so I don't know.
That man is a wingman of for all
Oh
drive,
my
like any
god,
driver,
yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm hopeful that he'll find something else. I know there's rumors of him being a reserve driver for Mercedes, which, good for him, but still, like, I think he should do something else on top of that. And I don't know, maybe he just wants a break and also he
That
deserves it.
too.
So he
It
got
is a
some money from
little
that contract. So,
it is a little ironic that when he first left Red Bull, the Mercedes seat is the one that he wanted. And if
mhm.
you go back and be a reserve driver, I don't know. I think it's a little bit pouring the salt in the wound.
Yeah, right. And then a couple other bullet points, just moving away now from the team talk, but Pirelli is in talks with having these two races next year test a new tire format. So if we remember last season, you whatever tire you finish Q3 in during qualifying, the last qualifying round, that's the tire you had to start on. So if like
Mhm.
my best lap was on the soft or on mediums. That's what I had to start with. And then this year they deleted it. It's a free for all. But now they want to look at having qualifying one, so round one, having hard tires, then medium tires for everyone in Q2, and then soft tires for everyone in Q3. Do you like that idea? I'm curious to see how that would
Yeah.
impact the teams, I mean, and the tracks too. Like all the tracks are so
Yes.
different. So,
I think I don't know enough about tire compounds to have like a
mhm,
definitive opinion, but I do know that each car, especially like the Mercedes, this year's
mhm,
Mercedes responds differently to the softs, to the hards, to the mediums. And I'm sure the other cars do as well. So I would be
mhm,
curious if maybe one of the cars is the best on the hards, maybe one of the slower cars, like let's say Williams, is better on the hards, and they might be able to make it to Q2 because everyone's on the hards and their car is really fast.
right.
It may be a midfield team who never quite can make it into uh, Q3, like with a driver maybe like Botas, who is probably pretty good on mediums and their car is good on mediums. Maybe they can sneak into Q3. So I'm interested to
Mhm,
see how something like that would play out. I don't know enough
yeah.
about tires to give you like technical specs, but I do think it could be interesting to try out.
I think it's worth testing. I'm curious to see what tracks they would decide to do it on. Obviously, you wouldn't want to do it somewhere like Spa, where we've had history of rain, so then it would be null because they wouldn't be able to use those tires. Or somewhere like Miami, I don't think would be good either because of how hot and humid it is. So I think they'd have to be very specific and pick a neutral track like Canada. When they're there, it's like not too hot, not too cold. So just the region and stuff too, I think they
Yeah.
have to take into consideration because I don't think that tire strategy is good for all tracks. So but it would be interesting to see. I think it would be worth testing, especially, knowing that, for example, like Lando is the only driver outside of the top three teams that has a podium. And we're supposed to be making these tires or these cars closer and closer together, yet they seem to still have these significant differences in terms of performance by the end of the race. So we just need to see more opportunity for some of these smaller teams, I think.
Yeah, I think going off the cars being supposed to be closer and closer together, I think we are seeing that, but in bunches. I think the top three are getting closer together. I think the
Yeah.
midfield is getting closer together, and I think the backfield is getting closer together. So
Yeah.
in those three groups, I don't think there's any. I mean, obviously Red Bull is way on top, but
Just
Ferrari is
unreal.
sneaking some wins. Mercedes is regularly podiuming. McLaren and Alpine are just back and forth, back
Just
and
neck
forth.
and neck. Yeah.
And even like in the back, the Williams is pretty competitive, even
Hmm.
so. I think we are seeing what they intended, but the big teams are still the big teams, the small teams are still the small teams, and the middle is still the middle. So anything they
Hmm.
can do to shorten the gaps in between, I'm here for it.
Yeah, agreed. That was, I think, all I had for news though, so we can probably get into the race. Yeah, it was a wet race. I think real quick, I think we should talk about the tractor situation because that happened right in the beginning. For those who didn't watch the race, after the second lap or during the second lap, Carlos and Albon were both kind of spun out on the side of the road. It was very scary. Carlos's spin out and crash. Very happy to see he's okay. And then Alex had some car failures, so they first yellow flagged it and then eventually had to red flag it just because of the conditions. The rain was so intense and it was very unsafe for the drivers. But while the drivers were still completing that lap so that they could go into the pits, there was already a tractor and marshal on the scene. So on the side of the track in direct pathway of an F1 car, essentially. In Pierre's camera specifically, you're able to see when he's driving, and then suddenly this tractor appears on the side. And situations like that are very scary. And it's just a reminder of what happened to Jules Bianchi at the same track 8 years ago, 2014 at Suzuka. There was a yellow flag, and he was just driving to do the same thing that Pierre was doing. And his car actually had spun out and it just so happened to spin out into the crane, which was again also on the track, when cars were still on it. And he unfortunately passed away after being in the hospital for a bit. So it's very scary and very traumatic to a lot of these drivers, especially Charles, who it was his godfather. And Pierre and Charles are best friends. So it's a very close situation to a lot of these drivers. It's one of the last serious crashes that have happened and made way for a lot of new changes in regulation in terms of safety for F1.
Yeah.
So, with all of that in mind, it was really shocking and upsetting to a lot of the drivers to see that situation happened because many drivers saw it. And I guess that Alex Albon had called it out in Singapore the previous weekend because there was the same situation. Um, I don't know. Did you look into the FA's statement and everything?
Yeah, it was garbage. They just completely deflected all blame when I think
Mhm.
that they should, one, be grateful that nothing happened, and
Right.
two, take advantage of this as a learning opportunity. Okay, we're good, nothing happened. That's cool. But
Mhm.
why was this out there? How do we stop it from happening from here?
Right.
And instead, they, and you can get more into this, they blamed the
Mhm.
driver and essentially said that's not their problem, that Pierre was at fault.
Yeah, and even some of the reporters too who were covering it were highlighting that, oh, Pierre was going too fast. oh, Pierre, was going over 100 kilometers an hour, he shouldn't have been speeding. Well, he could have been going 20 miles an hour and still, spun out and crashed and hit that marshal or hit the tractor and been seriously damaged. And
Yes.
so then what? You can't, then that argument isn't valid anymore. And so you have to take away, well, oh, if this, etc. Like at the end of the day, the tractor should not have been there. And the FIA lacks so much accountability on themselves to not, apologize, even if it wasn't, directly the FIA's fault and it was just the guy driving the tractor didn't pay attention and it was the tractor driver's fault. Like, it doesn't matter. The FIA should have still taken accountability. That's just like PR 101. So for them to, not even also show any sympathy or empathy for Pierre and the fear and anger that he was feeling and how scary that must have been as a driver to experience that. Um, yeah, I think it just was handled very poorly, and I hope that they use this as a lesson to kind of, or just like not to let it happen again. And yes,
Yeah.
I know that they still gave Pierre 2 penalty points on his driver's license, which also makes the situation worse. I don't think that that's how you solve things, by
Yeah.
penalizing the driver for a situation that he shouldn't have even been in. But yeah, curious to see what they do moving forward. If they do anything, I think they need to hold some accountability moving forward just to prevent this from happening again, because you don't know, the next driver might not be so lucky as Pierre was
Right.
yesterday.
They're missing the point too. Like,
Hmm.
okay, Pierre was speeding during a safety car. We have set rules and punishments and penalties set for that. Okay, take
Hmm.
that out of the way. He was speeding. That's fine. We have rules against it.
Right.
Why was there a tractor on the?
Exactly.
So
You have to address both sides of it.
yes. So, like you said, some accountability will be nice. I mean, last time, I mean, we shouldn't have to have someone die for measures to be taken to prevent it. Obviously, when Jules died, that's when the virtual safety car was implemented after that. So it was
Hmm.
hand in hand with that accident. But we missed an accident this time. We should still be able to kind of build off of it and improve the safety for the drivers.
I 100% agree.
Yeah.
So just wanted to get that out of the way because I know that was a large conversation, especially during those 2 hour break between the start of the race and then the last 36 minutes of the race. I mean, I spent the whole time on Twitter just scrolling because a lot of people were upset about the way the situation was being handled, and even drivers were tweeting and being very outspoken about their disapproval of the FIA's decision on that. But yeah, so in terms of the race, not sure. Do you have a team you want to start with first?
Red Bull. We can we
Okay.
can just we can
Well,
just rip off the
oh,
band-aid.
another big news. Yeah. Max is now officially a second world champion. He has
Yep.
two back to back, or has back to back champions under his belt. I do feel bad that he can't have like a normal win. Even Max was confused at the win
Yeah.
announcement. And I feel like it was kind of unfortunate, I think, for him, because there wasn't that like build up. He didn't finish the race, feeling like he had just won the world championship because he didn't think he did yet.
Right.
Uh,
This is another FIA mismanagement mishap. I don't
mhm.
think anyone was aware that a race that ran so little of it can be awarded full points. It kind of seems like they just pulled it out of nowhere.
Yeah. It was, I think people were getting it confused too, or like the FIA just made it quite confusing because
Hmm.
in a similar situation at Spa, everyone was only given 50% of points. But I do remember watching that race, and it was because the race had officially been suspended because they never got back on track after having to pause it.
Right.
Whereas here, they did finish and do, 36 minutes of racing, which was near half, I think. So
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't like it the way they handled it. I mean, yes, would he have won inevitably? Yeah, but I think they should have just let it play out the way it should have. He was also still technically 1 point behind when he needed to secure. I think he had a 111 point lead and he needed a 112 point lead.
Yeah.
So, but they were in Japan. I feel like because of Honda's partnership, they were trying to just weasel things in for Red Bull so that they could celebrate in Japan. But
It kind of sucks because I think the worst parts of the internet will take this and run with the FIA is in
Yeah.
Red Bull's pocket.
Hmm.
I think the FIA maybe makes decisions that benefit other teams more than others.
Yeah.
And they do it in situations. Max was going to win this championship. They don't
Hmm.
have to help him. They don't have
Yeah.
to give it to him early. They just don't have to. And they could avoid all this confusion. They could avoid all this bad press because I don't know that there's a soul that likes the FIA right now.
No, no. I think they're just, I don't know what they're thinking necessarily. I mean, I think if you need a PR team, FIA, I'm looking for a job, like a full-time job in a year. So
Mm-hmm.
hit me up because I think you need a just some extra hands in on some of this stuff because oh my God, if
I
there's a
agree.
team that thinks that not all press is good press, guys. I know it's like a
A
so
saying, yeah, no.
yeah, no, no, no.
Um,
So
one
but
last point with Max I wanted to touch on. He now has 2 World Driver Championships and 32 race wins, same as Fernando Alonso,
yeah.
which I think goes to say how I think I've said before how there's even at the top there's different levels. I think Max
Hmm.
Verstappen, not I think, I know Max Verstappen is definitely going to be more of a Michael Schumacher, Lewis Hamilton than a Fernando
Yep.
Alonso, even a Sebastian Vettel. I think Max is on. There's more chances that he wins the
Hmm.
next 5 in a row than he doesn't win another one in the next 5 years.
Yeah. I think personally too, looking back at Vettel's history, had Vettel stayed with Red Bull, I think he would have had more opportunity for
Mm-hmm.
more. But Ferrari was also a very tempting team. So I don't blame him for going into it. But I do think Vettel could have won more had things played out better for him.
Sure.
But I do think Max is gonna be in that Michael Lewis realm. I hope we have someone new wins next year, whether it's Lewis again or Charles or something. But very excited for him. I also think that he got so much flack for last season's, and a lot of people trying to dismiss his world championship and say it's not valid and he didn't deserve it.
Yeah.
I still think he deserved it last year, even if the way it was handled was poorly.
Mm-hmm.
He still worked his butt off last year, and this time around, you can't argue that there was a bunch of things benefiting him.
No.
Like he totally deserves it, and I'm very excited for him. I can't wait to see, how many other championships he wins because I know there's more to come. But yeah, just wanted to lead with the positive and say congrats to him because I thought that was really impressive.
Yeah. Yeah. Definitely. Best driver, best car.
Yeah. Let's see. Ferrari, not too much, I think, on Ferrari. Good for Charles for trying to manage those tires. He was really, really struggling for a very long
Mm-hmm.
time and held off Perez until the very end, but then had that slip up from Perez and then lost his P2, ended up in P3. But I think he could have deserved that P2. I think he had a really good race. So I don't think he could have done anything differently, honestly. So
Yeah, Perez is kind of a headache to deal with on the track. I feel like
yeah.
I've I'm not jealous of Charles and Carlos, who always has to deal with him. It feels like
I
so.
know.
Yeah, tough weekend for Carlos as well. That really scary spin out. I'm curious to see what the rest of Ferrari season looks like because
Mhm.
they are still a bit in a battle for second in the constructors.
Yeah.
So I hope they don't let up.
Y- Yeah, I mean, their race isn't over, even though, we know who the
Yeah.
championship is. It's these battles between the teams. Like now we can kind of fully focus on that and just kind of, see what happens because there's so many teams that are close. So I'm hopeful. I think that Ferrari will still end up in second, just because I think they have a faster car. The Mercedes really struggles on the straights. So
Yeah,
we'll see. But
that's something I want to say too. Obviously, Red Bull, it became clear after like a month that they were just the best car. They were the fastest car.
mhm,
There was no stopping them. I think it's more of an indictment on Ferrari if they lose second in the constructors to a slower car. So
right.
I think that is just a sign of mismanagement. So for their sake, I
Mhm.
hope they hold on.
I hope that Ferrari takes this as a learning opportunity to maybe change up their strategy team, maybe get some fresh, smiley new faces in house,
Yeah.
do some of those team bonding exercises, and come back
Yeah.
next year ready to compete with Red Bull and Mercedes because Mercedes is coming out swinging next year. And Red Bull's already up there, so they have to be at their absolute top to
Yeah.
compete in that first and second range again. But let's see. Other Oh, we can talk about Haas real quick. So I did want to call out before we get any Mick hate. Mick just preemptively. Just I texted this to you too. I said don't make any comments quite yet because Mick was the first Haas driver to lead a race. Yes, it was for a whole second, just a second, but he was in the lead, and it was very exciting to watch. It was like stop the clock. We had him up there, but the team had said on the radio that they wanted to play the long game and try and pit him late because a lot of the drivers like Latifi, which is how he got up there. Latifi and Seb, they both pitted almost immediately after
Yeah.
after they were able to race again. And it worked out, and it showed that that was the better strategy because you had Vettel who finished P6 and then Latifi who finished P9. So it was very good strategy, but they thought at the time that it would be better to play the long game at that point because everyone was starting to go in. So it worked for a little bit, but by the time they were able to pit Mick, he was the last one. He was on those tires for so long, and his car was just so slow. So he ended up like 14 seconds behind Joe by the time he was out, and so he was at the bottom. I will say he did catch up to Joe, and then there was like a little bit of mix up back and forth in the back of the grid. But I think that tire strategy kind of screwed him over for the remainder of the race. But he did out qualify Magnussen, which is what he needs to get that contract signed. So fingers crossed.
Yeah, I think I wish Haas would know their personnel a little bit better too. I think I would have rather than pit him early. Mick is not
Mhm.
like
The
known for
fastest.
overtaking or
Yeah.
pace. So I think setting him up in a situation where, all right, you give him fresh tires and say go past people, I don't think that suits his strong suits. I think they're setting him up for
Right.
failure. I think if you pit him early and hey, manage your tires, defend well, and hold off as much as you can, yeah, maybe he gets past a little bit and we'll go from
Mhm.
P5 to P8, but it's better than coming back out, you know, and not being able to get up there.
Right.
So,
Right. There are certain drivers you do that for. But yeah, so for Latifi, I mean, they know their audience, right? Like they know Latifi isn't going to overtake. So pitting him as early as they can to get him as high as they can, I think was their best strategy. And it obviously worked in their favor because he scored some points, which we talked about in the intro. Juan, do you have any thoughts on your new favorite driver when you get that merch?
I'll say a couple of things about Latif. I'm glad he scored points before he's on his way out. I'm happy for him. Is he? Maybe I'm crazy. Is he like oddly good in the rain?
Yes, yes, yeah.
He's like odd. I feel like all his best performances have been when it's wet.
Yeah, isn't it when he got he had like the fastest sector for like two
In
of them?
Yeah, yeah. Um, yeah, I think obviously Latifi is a reason Williams has not been great, not even great, not competent for the last like 3 years. Uh,
Mhm.
but I think this was a sign of a maturing team, a team
Mhm.
that's really starting to gel with each other. Albon has had a decent year given the car. The car has a lot of potential. It's crazy fast on the straights. I think with a oh man, is Logan Sargent better than Latifi?
I don't know. I mean, Logan Sargent has a better F2 track than
Or
Latifi did. Latifi was never the most solid or consistent driver in F2. And I think the reason why Logan even has this opportunity is one, because Williams took an early bargain with him
Yeah.
when he signed as an F2 driver, and put him in the driver academy. And so I think it kind of worked out for Logan specifically, because had he been with another team, I don't think, or had he not had that driver academy already under his belt, I don't think he would have the opportunity that he does now. But yeah, I would say Logan's better. I wouldn't say he's going to be consistent at all by any means, but I think uh, it's so hard because I don't know. I have to look a little bit more into him, because if he's anything like your standard American, and I say that as an American, I hope that he gels well with Albon, because Albon is a great leader and he needs to take some, be there to like mold. He needs to be a driver that's being okay with changing and adapting and critical feedback and learning from other drivers. So I think as long as Logan can keep an open mind and not come in with this like arrogance for being a young driver going into F1 or being the first American in forever in F1, I think as long as he can like humble himself a bit, I guess, I think he will do a much better job than Latifi. But that's if he can do that.
I will be as vague as I can. I think Logan Sargent may or may not be uh, uh, of a certain subset of American
Yeah.
that may or
Yeah.
may not take the best to any of what you just said.
But
And
that's my fear.
yes, and we are admittedly not huge fans of him. I hope for William's sake that it works out. I
Mhm.
just, I can't believe I'm saying this. I think I would feel better about Williams next year if Nick DeVries was the one driving.
Me
If
too.
the option was Logan Sargent or Latifi, I would have kept Latifi.
Really? You would have kept
Yes,
Latifi?
I would have kept Latifi. Is Logan Sargent going to be a good driver in F1?
No, I mean, I would like to see him do more testing. That would be cool, because I feel like I have hardly seen him even in an F1 car. In F2, it's so much more level playing field. You don't really get to, I don't know, their cars aren't as fast. They're not as,
I
I
understand you have to
don't
see what
know.
you have in your junior driver, but I just think Logan Sargent is just not going to be a great F1 driver. He's not going to
No,
be a good F1 driver. So you're going to put him in, he's going to mess up, he's going to crash, he's not going to be consistent. If
I
you
would have,
know,
yeah, go on.
I just,
Sorry.
instead of putting someone he's just not the future of the team, I
Right.
would have just, with Latifi, you would have kept continuity, you would have kept money. He's
Hmm.
not going to get worse.
Yeah,
I don't know. I just don't love that Logan Sargent's going to end up in the seat.
I know.
I think Williams was on the upswing, and I think that might be a bump in the road.
I think it would have been a dream situation. Although I do think Nick DeVries at AlphaTauri is a better situation for him as long as the AlphaTauri car is good. However, I wish it was Colton Herta going into that AlphaTauri seat, DeVries into that Williams, because I think, DeVries could eventually even end up in a Mercedes or, just in one of those upper cars. I think he has that possibility to him, but or even with Alpine, like if Ocon or something left, I think DeVries could be great there. But I think that would have been the dream situation. Just like put DeVries in Williams, put Herta in AlphaTauri, or if you couldn't get Herta, put Daniel Ricciardo. He was still on the market. You know what it's like to work with him. He's still. I mean, Christian Horner said it himself. If he had the chance, he would hire him. Well, you could have, kind of. So
Yeah,
you had some influence still. So I don't think it's. But anyways, yeah, we'll see. I'm nervous for Logan Sargent, but who knows? Maybe he'll surprise us. Maybe he's very humble and very I don't know. Maybe I should follow his Instagram and just get a vibe for what his social media presence is like, and
yeah,
get to know our coming rookie driver for next year. So I follow Oscar, so I should probably follow him too, since he'll
that's fair.
probably be in
Yeah.
it.
Also, has Oscar Piastri fallen off the face of the earth?
Yeah, I think that guy's just I
Just
think he's
waiting.
had a yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
um,
I would too, to be honest, if I was the face of the news for like a whole month. So,
literally. Yeah. Yeah, I'm worried about Williams. I don't know.
I don't know. I mean, they have Alex, and Alex is one of, he's great. I think he has a lot of talent. I hope the Williams car gives him more consistent opportunities to show it because I think he's a really great driver. I think he's also done with Red Bull officially.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah,
So
yeah.
I hope he stays there. It sounds like he has a multi-year contract, so I'm not
He
worried
does.
about him
Yeah.
leaving anytime soon. But I also wasn't worried about Daniel leaving, and here we are. So anything can happen. But I don't think I had that many other comments on the race.
No, no, I did not. No race this weekend, right?
No race this weekend. The next one is in Austin. Um, I'm so sad I'm not there. I love Austin. It's one of my favorite cities in the US. I wanted to live there slash almost live there three separate times and then move to very different locations like London. So but it is at 10 p.m. British time, which is 2 p.m. Central time. So get ready for that. We'll be posting though throughout the week and we'll come out with another recap or a get to know episode. I think we have like two or three teams, or do we have one team left? Two teams
I
left?
think we might just have.
We have Haas to do, I think.
I think we just have Haas left.
Okay. Who do you want? I'll take Mike.
I'll take Kevin Magnussen. Yeah.
That was
Yeah,
quick.
we just have one get to know left. We
Mhm.
will have some interesting Haas content
Yeah.
down the line later this year. Maybe honestly, maybe even I'm sure when the season's over, we'll take a small break, but maybe we even
Mhm.
will come back with that Haas content that we have planned.
Yeah.
That'll be interesting. I'm looking forward to that. We'll have more
We'll
details
talk
soon.
about it. Yeah.
Yeah.
But very excited.
Yeah, definitely. Um, yeah, anything else we want to cover?
No, I think that's it. If you aren't subscribed already, please do. That would be cool. We're on all streaming platforms, so find us on, I don't know, I think we're on Pandora now. I put us up on there.
Pandora?
We're yeah, fun fact, people still use that.
Who is the specific person who uses Pandora that prompted it?
No, I just was looking through where we could also share in
Oh, okay. Yeah, for
Pandora, and
sure.
I applied. I was, filled out the
Yeah,
application to show that we were, fun and funky and diverse enough to add to their content, and we are.
cool.
So,
Look at that. We
these,
made it on
yeah.
Pandora.
But
um,
we're also on YouTube, Apple, Spotify. We're also on social media, TikTok. We're making some fun content. We're on social media. So yeah, give us a follow. And we'll be back next week for Haas.